I got help with that a little bit. Seems to me we're all pretty close to the same page. It's just a matter of discussing one-on-one, an effective way to communicate. One-on-one in person is the best way to communicate. Anyway, I guess I'll take my pad with me. And probably my key. Alright, I have my keys. Should I come around and do what?
I said hello.
Hello. Should I come around and sit in the passenger seat?
Yeah.
Perfect. I called this video discussing dynamics and formulating a battle plan.
Okay.
I figure
I'm gonna talk while it works.
that works. See, that I understand. I can play with beads and listen to people at the same time.
Exactly.
Just having a conversation with two other people at the same time becomes too complicated for me.
Yeah.
And if they both talk at the same time, I don't hear either one of them. If there's a vehicle that drives by, I don't hear what anybody said.
Mm-hmm.
And I notice a lot of people talk over me when they know I'm going to say something prolific.
Yeah, that's because a lot of people like listen to wait for their turn to talk. They don't listen to them.
Exactly. All right. Now, when I said I've been one end of the country to the other, I wasn't kidding. That one's from Bristol, Virginia, Officer John Carty. This one's from Hood River, Officer Gabe Wilson. These ones are Hood River, Michael Smith and Isaac Brown. Let's see, here's Kyle Zurer and Don Shelley, and another Don Shelley. That's all from Hood River. And then we got, the Capri Motel. That's where some of the cops in Scottsbluff took me. I was actually in jail with a couple of people from there.
Oh, sure.
Gabriel Hoffman from the Dallas Police.
Mm-hmm.
I also have the information for Columbia Gorge News. And then here's another Don Shelley. I ran into him a few times. So I got a lot of cards.
Mm-hmm.
This one's from from Sydney, Nebraska. All over the place. John Stark, number 713 from Gearing.
John Stark from where?
Gearing. Sean Holloway, that's Dual County. He's one of the predators, actually. Malik Delancey, officer. That one's Hood River, I believe. I've got hundreds of these. Anyway, the biggest issue that I had is that people wanted to pretend that autism is schizophrenia, which it's not.
Which is not even remotely close, and just damaging to continue entertaining lies about neurodivergent brain patterns. Like, seriously, like, can we just get over the idea that everybody should be a cookie cutter and just accept that, you know, atypical isn't as atypical as we think?
Well, that's one of the things that I was supposed to have an autism advocate for. I had several people who were pretending like they were going to be an autism advocate, but they didn't follow through.
Well, or they don't understand well enough to help you in the way that you need to be helped.
Well,
because they want to help you how they want to help you, but they don't want to help you in the way that you need.
Right. They need to listen to understand first. And we never get that far because they're busy either telling me about themselves or talking about other people they shouldn't be talking about because of their professional capacity. Here's some more from the Dalles. Chris Simmons, Tyler Caldwell, Alejandro Zaragoza, and Juan Castro. Oregon Department of Health and Human Services. Michael Child is one of the people I have to turn in. He's a supervisor for District 9. There's a young woman, you remember I was telling you about Natalie Bollinger? Her dad is possibly human trafficking a 16-year-old girl from Colorado to Texas.
Oh, shit.
I tried to get the Hood River Police Department to listen to it 3 months ago. I've jumped through so many hoops. Did I show you the video of that lady, Jamie, getting punched in the back of the head?
Yeah, you did, and that was ridiculous.
I've got hundreds of videos just like that.
Yeah.
When I say that I prove, I don't just talk about people being victimized, I have proof of it. I don't bullshit. I'm tired of my friends dying out here. A lot of the people who were witnesses to the situation, they were lazy and they ended up dead before they ever spoke up.
Yeah.
And for a lot of them,
I had friends that just forever disappeared into homeless encampments.
Yeah. Or, of course, you got a friend for 20 years and they find themselves a magic penis or a magic vagina, and then for some odd reason, you're not friends anymore. Like, what? Yeah. What the hell is in there? That's where they're stuffing the cocaine. You sniffed it, didn't you, you dumb bastard? But that's one thing with, like, a lot of the people out here that are addicts on the streets. They'll tell you how Christian they are when it suits them. But when it doesn't suit them or their church folks aren't around, they forget about the Jesus and they're hateful people.
Because it's not about... It's not about the Christian way of living for a lot of the people that I've come across. For a lot of people, it's about the being able to say, oh, well, God or Jesus or whoever forgives my sins, and so it's an excuse note, not a true religion.
Yeah. For a lot of folks that I know, some of them do actually believe that stuff, but a lot of them it's a crutch or an excuse. They keep the Jesus not in their hearts but in their brains because it's a political maneuver. I did something screwed up. I'm going to say in Jesus' name, I'm the Christian, so people will assume I'm telling the truth.
Right.
And with a lot of the people that I've had to deal with, I suppose I should start by saying when Natalie was underage, I'm sure you know about all the kids that hung out on Pearl Street and then later on down at the library. Well, she was one of the ones who was down there hanging out with homeless people. She hung out with the heroin users and the meth users, and she was down there selling drugs for her dad. I got evidence of all of this stuff, and that's one of the things I was going to show Casey. There's the conversation between Natalie and I, and this is one thing I'd like your help with if you're willing to.
Okay.
I do want to sit down and record all of the conversations, every bit of it between me and Natalie.
Okay.
But since it's a conversation, if you could do the part where you just read what Natalie wrote and I'll read what I wrote, and that way it's easy to differentiate, because otherwise I tried reading it all by myself and I had a bunch of people get a hold of me and say, hey dude, it's really difficult to tell which one of those is supposed to be from Natalie and which one's from you, and you going back and forth and saying, and I wrote and she wrote, and we don't know necessarily where there's a break in one part or the other, and in this part I was confused, and I get it.
Well, that's proofreading, so no problem.
Yeah, if I was to do it, you know, like in different voices, that would just weird people out.
Right? Yeah.
But they used the mentally ill tag and tried to insinuate that I was schizophrenic in order to cut me off from my rights as a human being.
Oh, I was told, you're probably bipolar, and then I've had all kinds of people be like, I bet you're blah, 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 and I'm like, yeah, you know what, I actually have a diagnosis from a PhD level psychologist. There's a 16-hour battery of testing for cognitive and behavioral functioning, and like a person walking up to me that I've never met before. I don't care what your credentials are. Like, you come up to me in the first 10 minutes, you're trying to guess my psychological diagnosis without even considering the paperwork that I've offered. Like, you can fuck right off. Like, pardon my language, but I have nothing to say to you because everything you say is a speculation based on your own experiences and has nothing to do with me.
Right. And that's one of the things where when it comes to trying to get help from folks and they're going to constantly tell you about just their problems. You know, Sean, yeah, I said I would help, but there's this, and this. And then they expect you to be able to function through everything when they're having problems and struggling, and they have a lot more assistance, have a lot more help, and people are a lot more understanding.
Well, you know, there's more than just fight or flight, too. There's people that are fight, flight, or fawn. And if you look that one up, basically means that there's some people out there whose stress reaction is to help everybody else so they get out of their fucking way. And that's what I am. So the more people stress me out, the more I'm like desperately trying to find ways to get them to leave me the fuck alone. And then it confuses the hell out of people because I also have secondary Addison's disease, which means that stress can literally kill me. Like a sugar shot could kill a fucking diabetic. And here these people are just thinking it's cute and funny, and then not giving me my medication, and it's not cute, it's not funny, and it's not okay.
And it is life-threatening.
And it is very life-threatening, especially considering that I could be dead or in a coma in 10 minutes, and these people are like, I don't know what that is. I'm like, well, that's terrifying.
Well, there's a lot of dynamics because I believe in equality. That means no victim left behind. It doesn't matter if you're black, white, red, orange, yellow, male, female, 80 or 8. You're a victim, and you are worthy of being heard, and you have the right to be heard. I also believe that whoever you accuse has the right to be heard as well.
Absolutely.
And one of the things with me is that they didn't have to do that. They called me mentally ill and deprived me of all those rights, deprived me of the right to show evidence, deprived me of the right to face my accusers.
Here's the thing that I've experienced with this town is that everybody seems to be getting this attitude that they need to speak for me in front of other people. And I understand that that's maybe, or maybe not, a part of their personal religion. It's not a part of mine. And so I find it incredibly offensive to have people who won't take the time to get to know me plop down and assume that they can speak for me. And not having someone speak for me or go with me, especially as a woman, creates a problem where I can't get anything done for myself because I'm perceived as something, you know, detestable in some way to everybody in this town because of all the things that make me me. And it's like, well, you know what? I can't help you there. This is who I am. And I would love to get the fuck out of this place, but there's also seems to be like this whole, they feel like they're in charge of dealing out the punishment for whatever assumed crimes too. So, I mean, let's get our crap together.
Like, and they're assumed. Like,
they're assumed as well. They're not even verified.
Guilty.
It's like, do you have voices in your head telling you that Claire's doing this? Well, no. Did you even verify it?
And that's one of the things that's used real heavily too, is that's the whole thing with being called mentally ill, is that as soon as you're homeless, people are going to assume that you're mentally ill, that you are on drugs, and that's whether you're male or female. And then if you're a male, it's assumed that you're probably a child molester or a rapist or a woman beater. And then most of the males out here, same as the women, are out here because of abuse. They were abused until they were homeless. And then you hate them because they're homeless, and you're told that the homeless are a bunch of abusers. So then you got people who are victimizing the shit out of the most victimized people in the country and thinking it's okay because they're getting falsely labeled. So we got the 80% of us who are out here because we're victimized to this point. And then we've got the 19% who are out here who are severely screwed up in the head and or are sexual predators that are dumped off on our streets because they're sexual predators. So then any male, you don't even have to have any evidence. You can just say, oh, well, I'm afraid that he might. And a man, and especially in the state of Colorado, can go directly to prison for that.
And it's terrifying for men, and it's terrifying for the women that they have to take care of.
And it's terrifying for females because when you've got all these people that are doing all this false allegation crap, well, then you end up with innocent people getting killed and literally being killed. Like, all right, that Farnsworth guy, when he was running around saying that one guy was a child molester, and then he did the same thing to Lewis, and then he did the same thing to me, was following me around town, and he did that to me like 3 different times, and then he did it to Lewis again. And then there was 2 other people who came up and said that he was doing it to them. I'm like, this gets people killed.
It does.
And people don't take into account that, number one, there's severe drug interactions that are in place there. And with Natalie Bollinger, she was addicted to heroin and methamphetamines. She claimed that I was slandering her name, but everything that I said, I showed in evidence that it's true. But I've only ever shown it on my Facebook because I've never been allowed to show it in court. Public pretenders won't look at it. I mean, what am I supposed to do? Several of those public pretenders are now judges elsewhere, like Amanda Balehash was the public pretender in Boulder, Colorado. When I was assaulted by Waylon Lolatai, they charged me with assault. And then when I was still trying to turn him in after I tried to commit suicide, people were threatening to kill my friends and my family and all sorts of other creepy shit. And
Instead
they still do
of
this.
addressing the idea of like, why does Sean feel like he needs to commit suicide, it becomes an entirely
Nobody
different
asks
piece.
why. And that right there, that's 100% what it is. The number one, the first thing that they should ask in these situations, it's not, are you thinking about hurting yourself or hurting someone else?
Yeah, exactly. How are you
You
doing?
have a plan to
What
kill
do you
yourself?
need? Oh, well, that's hard. What do you need? Ask people what they need. Try it.
Right?
Instead of telling them what they need.
And that's
Ask
what
them.
made me a badass liaison. That's something I speak about on my channel often. I helped out people the way they needed because people know what help they need.
Yeah.
They're always going to know better than
And
me.
the most terrifying thing about this place that I've found is that when I ask for what I need, I get nothing, and I watch other people get what I need, and it's a little bit strange to me, and I don't understand that. I watch it like intentionally withheld from me and then forced on others, and it's not okay. Like, this is like, the hypochondria problem, you can't diagnose yourself.
I got a lot of friends of mine that are addicts, and they're always the ones that I wish would never get housing. And that's horrible, kind of when you think about it.
No, it's
but
not, because
the
I got
reality is,
kicked out of the homeless shelter because I wasn't an addict, so I wasn't on reentry. I hit maximum days for outreach for homelessness, so that's 30 days. And then they kicked me out on, into my car with a body temperature of 96.6 degrees Fahrenheit. And knowing that I was stressed out without any hydrocortisone left to take care of my Addison's disease, and then kicked me into the car, and it was 40 degrees out at night. I had my food stored on the floorboards, and it was still good. There was sausages that were still good 3 days later. I didn't eat it because it's us, but still, like, that's inhumane. I feel like I have less than animal rights in this city.
well, the thing that I've been pointing out on my YouTube channel is that it's everywhere.
Yeah.
I mean, I got it videoed up there in Tacoma, Washington, as I'm trying to find a computer that's full of evidence of child molesters and human trafficking that was stolen by a tweaker who was homeless. It was a tweaker who was homeless who helped me to find it, and on my channel, it's Computaco is what it's called. And there's 9 of them in the series because you can only record a certain amount of time on your phone to do that. So there's like 9 of them overall. And I finally got my computer back, but the cops didn't do shit. When the cops were abusive up there, I tried to turn in the officer, and they literally sent me to the officer that I was trying to turn in. That's against the law.
Yeah, I've been grabbed by one of the sheriffs though and brought back to this town, which is concerning. Like, instead of it's like, oh cute, go back, and it's like, well, I can't because I was told when I left, like, you got to go in the next 20 minutes, take the car, you're kicked out. And then my ex is telling everybody something different because I'm hearing weird things from my family, like, you got to fix yourself. Have you tried a homeless shelter? And then I do, and they're like, have you tried a homeless shelter? And I just really don't know what the fuck is going on, and I would really like people to talk to my face about it.
And that right there, that's effective communication too. When people
Exactly.
just want to text, they're going out of their way not to communicate effectively.
Exactly.
With you, you understand a whole bunch of the dynamics that, well, not just this town, Boulder, Colorado too. And Boulder is different because, I mean, the blues hit there real heavy apparently.
Yeah.
But those weren't there when I was there. The heroin was there. That came in 2003 with the Juggalos.
Yeah.
But all right, for the crimes that I have to turn in here, for me trying to turn them in alone, for me having disabilities and having recordings of cops literally going out of their way to ignore my disabilities.
Oh yeah, they really do out here. I can attest to that.
Well,
They really go out of their way to make sure that they don't do what you ask them to do.
or
like-
what their job is legally.
Like, all I asked was for an officer to go to the house that my children are supposed to be in, knock on the door and ask to see my children, and just show me like a picture or some kind of evidence that they're okay, because I can't get a hold of anybody. And they're like, you know, maybe if they let us. I'm like, no, you don't understand. I've been trying to get a hold of them. I need you to go inside, just look at them, look at the situation, and make sure everything's okay. My daughter has this like terrified fucking look on her face. The house is, you know, 50 times worse than it was when I got there. And when I got there, I cleaned it up, and it's worse than when I got there.
Spider.
A spider? Where?
Right there.
Oh, hi there, guy. Let me just move you, because, oh, there we go. Okay, anyway. Yeah, so people in this town seem to be pretty dead set on doing the exact opposite of what people need. And that's incredibly concerning, because it's not just a game, it could and probably has gotten quite a few people killed.
Yes, ma'am. And I have verifiable proof that it's gotten people killed in my situation in multiple locations across the country where cops didn't want to do their jobs.
Yeah.
That's one of the things about the crimes that have been repeatedly committed against me by the police, is that they're only committing those crimes because Natalie Bollinger the result of them not doing their job for an at-risk adult in 2016 and 2017 was at the very end of 2017, Natalie Bollinger got her brains blown out. No, I'm good. And I've been through hell ever since. But people also don't understand that there's a difference between a family squabble and when you have something like that that's been all over the news and now it's told in multiple languages in multiple locations. I mean, if you speak any languages other than English, I can probably find Natalie's story told in one of those languages for you to listen to it in a language other than English.
Yeah, but does anybody that's standing in front of your face want to hear what you have to say or listen to it at all? Like, so what good does it do if the people that are directly in the middle of the situation won't attest to it, won't do anything about it, and then you end up with all hearsay and nobody can do anything about it at all?
Well, that's where recording it comes in, is that the stuff that people are trying to say, oh, that's hearsay. It's not hearsay. It's not hearsay
Not
if it's
after
recorded.
it's recording, or it's your direct experience. And so
Exactly.
what do you do if nobody
in all those
wants to?
cases, people become pocket lawyers and start saying everything is hearsay. No, it's not.
Right.
If you told me that people are threatening to kill your kids,
Yeah.
all right, that's not hearsay.
Yeah, that's not hearsay. Hey, that I haven't seen my children, and I don't know where the f my ex-husband is. My 14-year-old is living in a house with people that she has no blood or legal relation to. My dog is MIA. And nobody will talk to me about what's going on with any of it.
Now, I've been talking to you since I got to town, and I can tell you, you're not schizophrenic.
No, I'm not.
I
don't need anybody to tell me that because I have my diagnosis paperwork.
Right. Well, with a lot of what I deal with, people like to just keep on pretending, 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 and with people, a lot of people that are on my channel who knew me for 10 years or more, they
Mm-hmm.
talk to me
Mm-hmm.
and say, "Yeah, Sean, I know you're not schizophrenic. My brother's schizophrenic. My
Yeah.
uncle's schizophrenic. I've known you for years. You've never shown any signs of schizophrenia. No, you're not schizophrenic." And I'm like, "All right, well, could you speak up about that?"
Yeah.
"Well, I don't know what good it'll do." Well, see, that's the thing, is that people have already started an argument instead of just doing the right thing.
Yeah, and then they waste all their time arguing about whose responsibility it is. Well, they tell the victims, well, have you tried over here? Have you tried over here? Have you tried over here? Until they're so burned out and out of resources that they don't even bother coming back and continuing to try. And then they end up a lost cause.
And when the thought of going to the resources, you can think about the victimization that already is going to happen, because they're not going to listen. They're not going to ask that important question, why?
Yeah.
Why are you trying to get this evidence of abuse against you into court? Well, it's not stopping, it's ongoing.
Mm-hmm.
With the abuse from Natalie Bollinger and her friends, most of it was her friends.
Mm-hmm.
But it was over her. It was over rumors that supposedly had been done to her. Now, Natalie never claimed those things.
Mm-hmm.
Natalie said that I stalked her because she was embarrassed. But then, after months and months of people treating me like I'm a child molester or a rapist, I'm like, hold on a minute. Natalie and I didn't become friends until she was an adult. And the conversations that we have on my Facebook, you can see the conversations between her and I. We talk about the fact that when she was underage, I ran them off.
Yeah.
They also, her and her twin sister, both thanked me for that.
Mm-hmm.
And then there's the fact that she tells me that she was infatuated with me, and she repeatedly tells me she thought she was in love with me. And at a couple of points, she tells me she thought she was in love with me, and nothing's changed and things like that. And then people treat me like I'm some sort of a stalker who is after her parts.
Yeah.
I'm like, that's so gross.
That is gross. Because, well, I mean, first of all, is it your business? And if somebody asks you to make it their business, did you do it in the way that they needed? Did you ask what they needed? This is the recurring problem around here that I've noticed. And all the way from Vancouver, Canada, all the way down to San Francisco that I've seen.
Did you try to convince somebody with scurvy they don't actually need oranges? They need to go drink some salt water and gargle?
That's exactly how this whole system is going. It's like, oh, you're so cute. Here, have a half a bag of IV. And I'm like, no, I need an iron infusion, a full bag of IV, probably some hydrocortisone to go with it, and my omeprazole prescription refilled. And,
Why am I talking to an RN when I have my paperwork and a doctor?
Are you even an RN at this point?
Where is the doctor? Please send the doctor.
Exactly.
And then you have to carry around all of your hospital paperwork with you everywhere, which is impossible to do.
It is.
But if you don't, you get treated like you're a junkie.
Raining. It's raining everywhere, so it's guaranteed to ruin what you have if given enough time.
Yeah. And for all of those homeless dynamics, from right at the very start, when Natalie disappeared, I was forced into homelessness at that point again.
Yeah.
And I tried explaining to people, I can't do this from homeless. And of course, with it being all over the news, it took them over a month to find the guy that killed her. That whole time, I'm being treated like I fucking killed her.
Mm-hmm.
The police never came forward to the public, and the media never came forward to the public about the fact that I'd already been cleared. Mm-hmm. Well, it's because I hadn't. Mm-hmm. They were still trying to, hold on to a homeless person, because homeless people are easy to railroad. They're like, if all else fails, he's an easy shoe-in.
Yeah, and then you're already wrecked and worried about survival, so what do? You're going to react in whatever way you need to get past that moment and go back to trying to work yourself up to a normal functioning level.
And then there's millions of people in Denver, Colorado, and they posted my face up all over the place in Denver, Colorado. Nobody bothered to explain that I had done everything that I could to try to show evidence to the cops of the abuse that I had been going through, and what Natalie was going through before she was killed. And when I was talking to them, I didn't know she was dead yet. They did. I saw the word 9mm written down.
Well,
and
that's what I worry about
my
family, is that they're all just embarrassed and they don't want to tell me what's going on with my family. And so I've heard nothing.
Well, that's one of the things about being embarrassed about a drug addiction. With Natalie, she was embarrassed because, first of all, I told on her dad for fucking molesting her as a kid and for beating the shit out of her stepmoms with an email that she sent me in 2016. I also told on Tim Beeson, who was having sex with her when she was under 18, and also fucking slammed her on the floor and wouldn't let her have her dog back. He only got her the dog because she fucking left him. She's like, dude, I am done with this shit. So he bribed her back with a puppy.
Oh
Well,
my
my
God,
friend
that's
Anna
so
was
not
bribed
okay.
back with a puppy, and that was just shortly after Natalie was killed. And she went back because puppy, and of course, she ended up dead too. And nobody's looking into her situation. Her family doesn't care.
Yeah,
And the thing
it's the
is
way that
that
I
given
feel
the
my family
situation
doesn't
she
care,
was
because no
in,
matter how much I message them, it's just sort of like, oh, sorry. And I don't get it because nobody's actually using words out of their face to express to me directly with my own ears what the fuck is going on.
well, let's just type it and take everything that you type out of context no matter what.
Yeah, exactly. I'm just gonna warp it however it makes sense to, like, they decide to warp
Whatever
it how,
makes it into an excuse.
whatever makes it like fit their worldview, which doesn't work because
I've noticed,
it's not their story to tell. If it's not your story to tell, then you need to either tell it the way that you were told as an advocate for the person, or excuse yourself from the conversation.
yes, very much. And none of my advocates were actual advocates. One of them was working for the Bollingers. Her name is Kara Johnson Miles. Now, I had an alcoholic helping me at the time, and she exposed Kara Johnson Miles.
Yeah.
And I went to see that lady in California because Shannon Alvarado said if I went to California, she'd help me the way I need. When I got to California, no, she's a fucking alcoholic and hardcore. She's also got a daughter who doesn't speak, and she's autistic, and she's also got a boyfriend that is the center of her screams most of the time. Her daughter has meltdowns, but the meltdowns are because of the sensory overload from her mom getting drunk and yelling.
Yeah, well, and abused people pick up bad habits from their abusers too, and that's something that
Yup.
people don't often recognize. Is that, say you've
Shannon
had,
Alvarado would never
what
hit her
if you've
kids.
had a narcissist, a malignant narcissist, abuse you your whole life? You're gonna have moments when you react badly and behave like a malignant narcissist because that's how you
I'm
were
told
treated.
that I make excuses for my predators, which is absolutely true. But also, I look at it. All right, like for the situation with
Well, giving them excuses, it's not necessarily giving them excuses, but say, like, you're
if I'm
you're
understanding
trying to
of it,
say,
then they think
okay,
it
well,
validates
I
it.
don't understand this yet, so let me continue to try and learn
Like
about
with
it.
the dynamics with working with you, that's a pretty easy thing to do. Working with Casey, pretty easy thing to do. Working with both of you at the same time, not easy to do
Not
because
easy to do because we all
we're
have
all
here.
funny
Wee!
motherfuckers and we're all highly
We're
intelligent,
hilarious.
right? But it's not conducive for like for me, for example. You know, it hurts
When
me.
you're trying to get your true point and story and your feelings out, you finally feel like you have a soundboard and everybody goes off into like chaos mode,
Yep.
then suddenly you feel like you found the support and then a rug pull, you
Well,
know?
like for with you and Casey, it because of the way the situation is right now, it does feel abusive to me. But I also am here to see it, to understand that it's not an abuse situation. He has a fucking gas guzzler. You do have a car issue. You are working on it. You
Yeah,
know
I
what's
have an
going on
appointment to
with
get
it.
it worked on today at 2 p.m.
You
So.
know, so like any suggestions that I might make, just like yesterday, I made the same suggestion more than once because I didn't quite understand what it is you were telling me. But you were saying it in plain and simple English. It was my
But
interpretation that was
your
wrong.
internal clockwork was all gummed up because you had your own personal things going on, and I understand
Yep.
that. I completely understand that. Now, if it's somebody that's staring there, like standing there doing their job, they don't have a care in the world. They have some cocky ass attitude, and they're staring at me like I'm stupid because I'm, struggling and asking for help, and like they've got all their crap together, and they still don't have the capacity or the empathy to listen to the words coming out of my face. Well, then we have a fucking problem. Pardon my language, but we do. Like, you can't like the people at the bottom, you need to assume that they're in survival mode, and the people at the top acting like unempathetic assholes makes it harder for everybody, because those are the people that have the most comfort and need to have the most shit together.
Maslow's hierarchy of needs.
And
You can't
Maslow's
take
hierarchy of
care of
needs.
anything else till you got food, water, and shelter.
Exactly.
Interpersonal relationships are on
Interpersonal
rung 3.
relationships are so important. Learn
And they
about
are.
it.
They absolutely are. And that's the thing about being on the bottom, is that although interpersonal relationships are like rung 3 on the ladder, the fact is the very base of the ladder, when we live in an economic society like we do now, it takes 2.5 people working full-time jobs to keep a roof over your head.
And you know, the thing is that I learned about that from Jeffrey Yergler at Olympic College in Bremerton, that interpersonal communication class that they offer for community college. Just this one class could change your whole life. And if you could take the time to go do that, it's available for everybody, and it'll help you understand how to advocate for yourself, but also recognize when you can and cannot advocate for others. And it's important to understand when you cannot advocate for somebody else and be able to stand up and say, I'm not the right person for you. Let me get somebody else.
But also,
But
in
not
that
just push them
situation,
away, but make sure that it happens. Don't just say, try the over there. It'd be like, hey, let me go take you over to this person and see if that works for you. And just, at least do a pass off so that the person doesn't get dropped. Because that's
but
what I've
also
noticed out
it's
here.
got to be a situation where the person who's passing you on, like one of my
Is
advocates,
able to communicate.
she
And if
quit
they
her
can,
job.
yeah.
So when she quit her job, she wasn't able to fulfill any of the things that we had gotten started.
Oh, I've had that happen to me in Colorado,
But
where they didn't even inform us that our caseworkers had quit.
Yep.
It's just suddenly there's zero communication, and we're suddenly off
And
the
then it's
housing
our
lists,
fault.
and it's our
Yep.
fault because we didn't check in every other day. And then I go and check in every other day.
They
and
tell you you're calling too much.
Exactly. They're like, this is harassment. You're kicked out. And I'm like, what?
Well,
That doesn't make any sense.
the people who go in alone are the ones who get that treatment, and the people who don't go in alone end up getting help. Every time I explain this to people, they say, yeah, I'll help you, I'll help you. And then when it comes time for them to actually go in with me, they always have some last minute excuse. And I'm sick of hearing Jesus is the excuse, because Jesus wasn't a bitch.
I'd like to see these people that use Jesus as an excuse go wash some homeless people's feet, because it's been real rainy, and I'm sure a lot of people need their feet scrubbed, dried, and a fresh pair of socks.
Yeah, I went to a church in Boulder, and there was some holiday that they had, and they were washing homeless people's feet. And so I spent probably 4 or 5 hours washing homeless people's feet after getting my feet tickled.
I mean, I've changed the socks of some guy that was spouting out white supremacist stuff, and but his hands were shaking and his feet were like white and wrinkly, and he was putting on wet socks and wet shoes, and I was like, oh no, let me do that for you. And does it mean that I subscribe to his brand of whatever? No, it means that I have empathy and humanity.
Yep, and that's one thing. When I passed out blankets in Boulder, and they called me Starbucks Sean, like, if you would have been Jesus Christ coming up to me in danger of freezing, I'd have given you a blanket. If you'd have been Satan coming up to me in danger of freezing, I'd have given you a blanket. Yup.
Like, what's so hard about that? If you don't have a blanket to give, that's fine too. You just say,
I'll walk you to warm and shelters.
Or, it's just, all I got is all I have, But what I used to do in Seattle is, like, if I was, say, Ubering and I'd see some homeless guys like, hey, got some spare change, I'd say, well, no, I can't spare any change, but I can spare a hug. And I tell you what, like, that changed some opinions and some lives and perspectives in my personal life, just to be able to walk up to somebody, know their name, call them by name, and say, I've got nothing but a hug. Do you want a hug? And now, how many people have said yes? I have very rarely been told no, and I've done that at 2 a.m. in Belltown. And, people are like, you're a woman, aren't you afraid? And I was like,
No, quite honestly, because I've seen some shit, and I know that the people at the bottom are often the people that really fucking need a hug. And if they don't, then don't touch them.
I used to hold a sign that said free hugs.
Yeah.
I wasn't after money. I
You
was
know,
legit
human
there for
contact,
hugs.
like hugs for
It's
psychology,
important.
it goes a long way.
Jamie Curtis was actually, she studied some of that, so she was actually able to tell me the chemical compounds that are important and the ones that are produced when you hear a familiar voice that you're comfortable with, and also the ones that you get from positive physical interaction from somebody
Exactly.
that you trust or care
Exactly.
about, and also from strangers.
Or like
Physical
when you're
interaction is
okay, so when I
important.
was in
For a
Italy,
lot
I
of
had
people
friends that
like
would
me,
say
I'm deprived.
it's okay to walk down the street holding your friend's hand. And you do that here, and you might get, you know, some canned peaches thrown at your head for being a fag. Like, what the fuck is that
And I
about?
definitely don't like that word.
Pardon my language. I'm sorry. I'm using language that I hear out of other people, not language that I subscribe
Yep,
to.
I agree.
If I would say that, I'd probably be referring to a cigarette more often than any sexual orientation.
Well, that
So
I'm personally going to blame that on Boulder because I've been all over the country, and Boulder is singularly the one place where it is okay to be gay.
oh, it is definitely okay to be flamboyant or low
Yep.
key or have a beard for all I care. I don't care.
You can literally have a beard and dress in a green fairy leotard suit and
what
walk
I mean
down
by
the
beard
street.
is when you have a straight companion where you're both not straight, so that everybody leaves you the hell alone. not
Yep.
not some glue on mustache, but a person that helps you make it look like everything's on the up and up for whatever.
I've found out
area
that
you're
I
in,
am
and that sucks. You shouldn't have to do that.
I am married to 3 women that I had never met before, and I am the parent of 2 women that I had never met before. And that's because they needed help getting the hell away from a creeper.
Oh wow.
Dad, I'm ready to go.
I've been proposed to so many times in my life, I can't even count.
Or,
it's bizarre because it's just like, how many people really know me? I could probably count it on one hand.
Pool and the Sundowner, and me and Todd Case were down there. And while he was shooting pool, because I'm not much of a bar crowd person, this lady comes up to me, and she's at the bar next to me, and this guy's chatting her away, and you can tell he's only about 4 or 5 beers in.
I got about 5 minutes before I got to go and do a potty run.
Well, she grabbed me by the arm and she said, I already told you, I came here with my husband. And so there I am, linked arm in arm with this poor girl. And I'm like, oh my God, I look like I'm about 80 right now. This poor girl is like, I'm married to this old dude. Oh my God, this must be a very desperate situation. And that's when Todd noticed the situation, and he came up. He said, hey, Sean, is there a problem here? I said, well, this gentleman here doesn't understand the meaning of the word no. And he says, I'll go talk to the bar owner. And by the time the bar owner came back, the guy was gone.
Nice. Good.
But
I've followed girls out when I watch them stumbling so hard that they can't even keep both eyes open at the same time, and some dude is like, yeah, come on honey. I'm like, oh, me too, eh? And I start following behind him. I'm like, what you doing? But not a lot of girls are willing to do that. And the sad part about it is that they don't even suspect anything from me because they're like, oh, they see another woman behind them. So what you need is a network of people that are both
a support network.
Like,
and that's what cutting me off by making me move does.
Yeah, sorry.
As soon as I start getting a support network, I've already been fucking abused into leaving again and moving to somewhere else.
The same thing happens
and all the
to me everywhere.
caseworkers that you're supposed to go to that are
That
supposed
suddenly
to be
they're traded
mandated
out.
reporters.
Yeah.
They're not mandated reporters apparently, because now what they're trying to do, have you thought about moving? I've moved over 50 times since Natalie was killed. I've more than just thought about moving. I've been forced to move. Now with there's a lot of stuff with your quirks that are very important. And that's one of the things.
Or maybe not.
No, they are,
could just be
because
quirky.
there's a lot of dynamics that you understand from firsthand experience. And me
And a
getting
lot
it
of fucking
recorded is
education,
important.
pardon my language again, but
The-
I have a very
situations-
expensive student loan debt bill sitting there that I keep trying to get forgiven, but
My
you know,
friends
it
were
never
afraid
happens,
to
so
speak
whatever.
up. They were afraid to go in with me. They were afraid of being recorded. And
Mm-hmm.
as a result, many of them, I didn't give a fuck when people were ending up dead. I was like, fuck
Well,
you.
I think
I'm
people
going
that
to
are afraid
record
be
it. You're going to
recorded
speak
first
up
need
or I
to
will.
think about why they're afraid of being recorded. And if you think that
I
what you're-
recorded that too.
the things that are coming out of your face, if that concerns you, if it concerns you that it might be on a public platform, then maybe it shouldn't come out of your face.
Right. Never trust an adult who asks you to keep secrets.
Yeah, no secrets.
Now, the reason
only
that you're
surprises.
more
And
important than the
there's
people who are actually
strategic
witnesses,
secrets within people, like family groups, where you're just like, yeah, it's our own business. But yeah,
you're not afraid of being recorded.
exactly.
And that's where all of these other people, I have them recorded. I can show you the recordings and
I'm going to
him
interrupt
as
you
well,
one more
but
time, but
it-
I'll give you more time.
there's
My
no way you'll have the
stepdad
time.
told me when I was a kid, and I think it was some senator really stepped in the crap by having some journal that basically was like a self documentation of all the crap they were doing. And I remember my stepdad Greg telling me, never do anything that you wouldn't want plastered on a billboard someday. And that stuck with me. It's like, whatever you do, whatever you say, you better be ready to own it. You better
Yes,
be ready
loud
to
and fucking
and
proud.
say, yeah, I did that. And you better be able to say, I did that, and not give an excuse.
People-
So did you do it in a way that raw video evidence or
If
audio
I have
will be your excuse? And if not, then you need to
Well,
work on
the point that I'm trying to make here is
Yes.
that I have the evidence of the abuse against me, and nobody will look at it. Nobody will speak up.
it. Right.
And what I've been trying to do for years is literally get someone to sit down and look at it and then verify that it does exist and help me to turn it in. Every one of my court dates, I can get a new court date based on evidence that I still have.
Right.
But one of the things with it, like you were saying about putting it on a billboard, I break the law. If I have to break the law to
Right.
rescue a child, I'm going to break that fucking window.
You're gonna break the window. I will too, and I'll do it for a dog, and I might even do it
And
for so much as
The
like
problem
a bunny.
is that it's
Or
not always a child.
a spider,
Sometimes
who
it is
knows?
an at-risk adult.
Yeah.
And these mandated reporters are not doing their jobs. They're triaging me out 100% of the time because I have to go in alone. Also, if I'm making these things all by internet and we never go to an in-person appointment where someone is there to actually advocate
Right.
with me.
And I've tried to advocate for myself, and they just kind of laugh at me. And it's true. You do need a partner in this area, especially in this area, to go in with you and help ask for what you need. And it's a little bit convoluted because if you have no support network, or you've been dumped here with no support at all, like you don't know anybody, you don't know the town, you just kind of ended up here, then you're really screwed because you suddenly have to find a total stranger to try and speak for you. How does one go about doing that, especially if you're homeless, you're filthy, you haven't showered in who knows how long? I haven't 2 weeks because they kicked me out of the homeless shelter with no shower and a wet blanket.
Now, I've been noticing that, all right, first of all, the socialization is totally cool. Now, I'm going to have to cut these short because I got to pee real bad too. But also, when it was the times that we'd set for you to help me and it was socializing, it was frustrating for me. But I also don't want to interrupt or disrupt that
It was
dynamic because
frustrating
it's
for me
important.
too because I wanted to help you, and then I ended up having things pop up in my schedule that were the fault of other people, and specifically people at Helping Hands in Tillamook.
And with you speaking that and it being on here, and also that's something that you can testify is true, that I told the truth when I said that. That is what you told me because that is the situation. And with all these other people, I have the same exact stuff that I have with you.
I always had the
recorded
decency
it.
to send you a text about it. Now my
Right.
my 970 number is shut off, and the 720 number is just still kind of sketch on security. So
But
I'm
you're
like,
also not too cowardly to admit that, yes, you didn't
I-
help because you have your own problems and that all fell in. And it wasn't my fault. It wasn't like I didn't try to get help. It wasn't like you wouldn't help because I was telling you, you're an evil fucking cunt if you don't help me and I'm not going to fucking be your friend.
like, I'll be a cunt if I want to. We'll try again tomorrow. And here we are.
Yep. Well, one of the things is like, all right, at first with Kayla Trujillo, she was a witness to a situation. I was at her house when I found out Natalie was missing, and I was at her house to get help to stop abuse I was enduring over Natalie Bollinger, as well as Ken and Leah Plunkett, who I was staying with at the time. They ripped me off for all my disability money.
But yeah,
So,
I've seen a lot of that.
A caseworker is
Setting
supposed to
themselves
help
up
me with
as
that.
representative payees and then
But I didn't
never
have one.
and then never passing on the money. Like I specifically have one PayPal prepaid account that's supposed to be the SSI representative payee for my 14-year-old. And like I haven't looked at that one in a while, but that's because the state of Colorado decided to just go ahead and throw out her SSI disability for, the same reasons that I need support.
Yep.
Maybe a different faceted reasons, but still in the same spectrum.
Well, the reason I brought it up is because, all right, when I left Virginia, it took me over a year for me to have a severe enough meltdown that people actually looked and said, all right, Sean, I'm actually willing to help now instead of just blowing you off. When I talked to them calmly, nothing. It took over a year. Then after Natalie was killed, because that was the result of that, we were cut off from that help because Natalie got shot in the fucking head. But Miss Peaches never spoke up. I had to record her on my YouTube channel 7 months or 8 months after that. Because it wasn't until, it was November when I was finally released from Arapahoe County Jail. I literally had to break a window, so to
That's an
speak.
extra fun one.
I threatened to kill the President of the United States, and I went and lit a road on fire.
Oh,
in
see,
order
that's
to
where you went
force-
wrong. But, however, I don't know your diagnosis. I don't know your
Well, here, hold up.
triggers.
Before
and so,
you
yeah.
before you make that conclusion, I had tried everything else.
Right.
Nobody else was speaking up.
Oh, that's all I was
had
saying.
to do something.
No, that's all I was saying. I was actually saying the exact
Yep.
same thing.
And
Is
the
that
fact
I don't
that-
know what
that
your
people
trauma
ended
is.
up dead.
And if I haven't learned that and nobody else has taken the time, you don't have
That was
any idea
that was
why
what
somebody
I'm
gets
what
to
I'm
that
explaining is that was my breaking a window. I
Yeah.
had to do something.
Absolutely.
But then it went from a year and a half to have a complete and total meltdown to 7 months of having a complete and total meltdown to, all right, the last 3 days for me have been super stressful because time has not been on my side, and every day that I spend waiting,
It's
it
just
ends up
taking
being
away every resource
Yup.
that you have until you have nothing, and they have no choice but to just lay down on the sidewalk and die. And in this town,
Yup.
they will let you. And in fact, you could lay there and look dead, and they would all just walk by until you've got
Same
maggots
thing in
crawling
Chapel,
out of your
Nebraska.
corpse, as far as I can tell.
Same thing in Chapel, Nebraska. Same thing in Bristol, Tennessee.
Mm-hmm.
Same thing in Boulder, Colorado. Same thing in Denver, Colorado.
Mm-hmm.
My friends are dead because cops didn't want to do their jobs and the media didn't want to do their jobs. I need somebody who understands the dynamics, who's actually willing to speak up. And that's one of the things that people have given me suggestions is having to do it alone. Yes, I
Yeah.
do need to talk to the media, but someone needs to call them with me. Yes,
Yeah.
I need to talk to the cops. Someone needs to call them with me.
Exactly.
Also, you guys
And
need
it might
the same
sound
help.
ridiculous if you live in, say, Utah, or I don't know, pick a random state. It may sound ridiculous to you, and you could be like, "How in the heck would it ever be like that out there?" That
It's
doesn't
on the
seem right.
internet.
And then you're like, "Okay, but I don't care if it's illegal. That's what's going on." Like you can't say, "Well, okay, I care that it's illegal." What I'm trying to say is that you dismissing something because it seems impossible is the most harmful thing that you can do to somebody.
Right, especially when somebody is saying, hey, I have the evidence, will you look at it? I'm not talking about aliens and Illuminati here. These are simple motivations. They don't want to get in
Exactly.
trouble. They don't want to admit they were wrong. It's saving face, but I'm being fucking harmed and people are being murdered, so get off your asses.
Yeah.
All right, I do have to pee, so I
Me
gotta go.
too.
I think this is a perfect primer. I'm hopefully going to be able to give you a fill-in on what I need. I'm going to have to write write it down.
Okay.
And I was hoping that you might be able to do the same thing for your needs. And I'm
Yes.
going to see if Casey can do the same thing for his. And that way we can all not waste our time.
Yeah, and resources, and
Yup.
you know, because we're at the point of pooling resources. That's how diminished we are out here trying to get help.
And if we're working together, as long as we treat it as a job, then we can
Well, it is a
have
job
private
to
time.
me.
It is. It absolutely
Everything
is.
in my life is a job. I
It's
take
a harder
it all
task.
seriously. Every single little thing.
Anyway, so with the dynamics with you, it's important that because you are familiar with a lot of the same places, you've been to Bremerton, you've been
Oh
here,
yeah, God,
you
Bremerton, yeah.
was living in friggin' Boulder, Colorado, for
Yeah,
Christ's sake.
and
You know the
I
same
grew
places.
up in Lyons, Colorado, which is a cool ass town. I gotta say, well, there's a lot
wonder
of
if
cool
Wraith
people that
still
came
lives
out
there.
of that place.
Him and Chris are both living up there in Lyons, but Wraith has MS and Chris has got a lot of health problems, so they're trying to move. But I really, really miss Wraith. He's my gay friend.
Yeah.
That's how he used to introduce people for like probably 3 months until I asked him to stop. He's like, "I'm Wraith, and this is my gay friend Sean."
This is my gay friend Sean. Well, but that's the thing there, you know, you're just kind of blunt. You're just like, yeah. How are you? Shitty. All right. You want to talk about
Well,
it?
the
Not
funny
really.
thing is-
All right. See you tomorrow. Like, what's so fucking hard about that?
I'm not gay, but he always introduced me that way. He had a 2-year plan for turning me gay.
Oh.
He failed miserably, but he tried. I mean,
Even then, that's sort of like, you know, the reverse racism problem, right? So just how about we just let people be who they want to be and stop trying to decide what they should be. Let them decide. That's their choice.
indeed.
Bodily autonomy.
Let me tell you what it's like to be a woman.
Yeah.
Okay.
If you don't have a vagina, step aside, because I do.
On my YouTube channel, I'll read a whole bunch of what men should be, and then I'll make a woman version of it, and I'll get hated. And I'm
There
like,
you
well,
go,
I'm only doing it
exactly.
for equality. I don't agree with this shit. I'm doing it to show you what it feels like.
What it feels like.
All right. Well, I'm gonna race you to the bathroom.
Oh, you think so, huh?
Yes, ma'am. All right.
Close that door and I'll.
You guys know how we end these videos. We got to be thankful to Miss Claire for taking the time. And of course, a lot of the dynamics that I was telling you all about, there's a lot of us out here. It's just most people are too afraid to speak up. Autistic people were created to change the world. That's why we're here. We're here to make things better. And you people shite all over us for it. And that fucking bee just got smacked. And I don't know why the fuck they do that. It's kind of like flies landing on a table near me. They know I'm going to kill them.
Oh, well, see, I just shoo them away or scoop them up and walk away and put them somewhere else. But that's because I'm a weird little...
Spiders, yes, unless they get too intrusive, in which case they do become splatters.
Okay, anyway. I should probably...
I got to remember how to end it. Oh, yeah. Good to be rid of you. Thanks for coming to visit. Stay out of trouble or don't get caught. Remember, you are your brother's keeper and no victim left behind.
Oh,
Not
Mama.
even if they have a penis. All right, I don't usually add that last part.
Yeah.